Hello my oddities and welcome to a new video. Today we're going to be doing what Lantern Cores the Mortal Kombat characters belong in Part 2. Last time we covered the characters from the first Mortal Kombat game released in 1992. Now we're going to be doing the characters from the second Mortal Kombat game released in 1993. If you haven't seen that previous video, then definitely make sure to check it out, as it will explain the structure of how this video will progress and also all the Lantern Cores, what they are, all that stuff. But without further ado, let's get straight into this video.
Katana.
Alright, Katana. Now, the Mortal Kombat 2 characters, I had a little bit of a tougher time deciding Lantern Cores for. I'm not really sure why. I think the characters from the first game were just a bit more fleshed out, but at the same time, their personalities were a bit simpler. Like, I know those kind of conflict, like they're fleshed out, but their personality is simple, but like, you could just get them more. Whereas the Mortal Kombat 2 characters are a bit more vague in that aspect, so I kind of really had to go in depth of what we've seen from their character, what their backstory which suggests. So, starting off with Katana, I could see quite a few Lantern Cores, mostly positive ones, not really any of the negative ones. You know, fear doesn't really make sense, death, avarice, none of those really make sense for Katana. The only one I could see maybe you make an argument for is the Red Lantern Core of Rage, and that is because she has gone through a lot of tragedy in life, and she has a lot of reason to want revenge on people, specifically Shao Kahn in the original timeline, and also in the NRS timeline. There's even more people for her to be angry at, with Raiden, you know, kind of causing her death indirectly. And so, especially if you're going with like Revenant or NRS Katana, this could make sense, but I don't really think it represents Katana's character that well, and I think it would not be correct to give her the Red Lantern Core of Rage. Another one people would suggest is the Sapphire Lantern Core of Love, and, you know, I can get this one a little bit more, you know, with her relationship with Liu Kang being something that's sort of big, but also sort of vague throughout the series. You know, it's never really been 100% confirmed until these more recent games, and also in the movies and stuff. And so, I don't really know if you can give her this one. I feel like the other female ninjas in general kind of have like this sense of love or lustfulness to them within Mortal Kombat, especially throughout the 3D era and some of the newer games, stuff like that. But I don't really think Katana is the most representative of that. I think you could make a better argument for Mileena and Jade, which we'll get to later. But Katana, I feel like, is more of a, you know, standard heroic warrior type of character, more along the lines of like Liu Kang, Kung Lao, sort of like that, rather than like those like lustful assassin types that I think Jade and Mileena are. And so this leaves me with two other Lantern Cores that I think could fit for her, and that is the Hope Lantern Core and the Compassion Lantern Core. Now, Hope, you know, could make sense because, you know, for her to go over to Earthrealm's side means that she has a lot of hope within the Earthrealmers and what they'll be able to accomplish. But I also think for the same reasons, Compassion makes sense because she has a lot of compassion for the Earthrealmers, which is why she switches over to their side rather than other characters from Outworld, is because she specifically has a better sense of compassion. And just saying those out loud, I think Compassion has a little bit more of a stronger argument. She could definitely be a part of the Hope Lantern Core, but I feel like Compassion is just the right one for her. So, Katana, Indigo Lantern Core. Yeah, we have a lot of more characters to go through.
Mileena.
Alright, Katana's twin, or I guess clone sister, Mileena. Now, I think Mileena is a bit more straightforward than Katana, and it makes her Lantern Core a bit more clear, but let's go through some alternatives. Firstly, the Red Lantern Core of Rage could make sense for her because she's been screwed over quite a few times in life, you know, being created as this like monster version of Katana, which Mileena did not really appreciate. She had to have this mouth that she had to hide from people, and she never really felt like a true sister to Katana. And not only that, but she was always kind of in Katana's shadow, at least in the original timeline. And then later on, when Shao Kahn dies, she is technically the rightful heir to the Outworld throne, but shenanigans and stuff happened that just never let her get to that point. So she probably has a lot of rage because of all that stuff, and she takes it out on a lot of people, but I don't think this is her main drive, her main emotion that fuels the things that she does. Another one that could make sense is Ultraviolet. Now, for those who don't know, Ultraviolet is not a part of this box set, so I can't actually show you the ring, but basically, it's a bit of a newer Lantern Core that is kind of representative of, like, repressed trauma and, like, hidden emotions, which could make sense for Mileena because she does hide a lot of the trauma, specifically represented visually through her mask, which covers up her hideous monster Tarkatan teeth. And so, you know, there's both a visual representation there, and it's also just a part of her deep down character. And so that one could really, really make sense for her. But I think even then, the drive comes from a slightly different place than just trauma. I think it comes from a place of love, which, you know, when you think about it, it doesn't make sense, but then when you think about it a bit more, it does make sense. It's a bit weird. Now, the reason someone might not think that love makes sense for Mileena is because at a surface level, it doesn't really seem like love is like her main aspiration. You know, she seems like a character that's very brutal, that's like eating people, doing all this stuff, and only uses her body and how attractive that she is without the mask thing to gain what she wants. And even though that is part of her character, at the end of the day, it's still based around love because she just wants to be accepted for who she is. She went through her entire life having to hide part of herself because she never felt like a true sister to Katana, and so she covered that part up of herself so that she could feel more like a sister, more like a regular human, or I guess a Denian, even though that's not really what she is, and she's half Tarkatan. She wanted to get acceptance from not only Katana, but also Shao Kahn and just the rest of Outworld, and also she just wanted to fit in, and she wanted to find love as well, specifically in the newer timeline where she does find love in Tanya, but overall, a lot of people don't really find her that attractive, and she doesn't think herself is that attractive because of her demon Tarkatan mouth thing, and so, you know, she figures people will be turned off by that, besides for Baraka, but I think it's pretty clear why Baraka would enjoy that. And so a lot of her motivation for why she lashes out at the world is because of love and her quest to find it, which sounds very corny, but it's true. So Mileena, love Lantern Corps.
Kung Lao.
Alright, now we got the second fiddle, Kung Lao. Now, Kung Lao is another one that I found very hard to kind of figure out a Lantern Corps for. Firstly, because he's had so many different characterizations over the years, but also he just doesn't really seem to fit that well into any of them, besides just like the basic ones that like every superhero or every just heroic good guy character would be a part of. And so I really had to dig deep for this one. If there was a Lantern Corps based off of like Pride or something, I think, you know, Kung Lao would definitely fit that one. But there isn't really one besides for Avarice, kind of, which, you know, sort of makes sense for Kung Lao, but at the same time, it's not like the same type of avarice. You know, Kung Lao, he is very jealous of Liu Kang, especially in more recent adaptations. He's always been jealous of Liu Kang. He's always wanted to be that champion. He's always wanted to be seen as one of Earthrealm's best fighters and champions of the entire realm, and he wanted to succeed the great Kung Lao because that was his ancestor. And so, you know, him wanting all of that could make sense for Avarice because he wants it all. He wants all the fame, all the glory, all the positive things that come from being a champion and having people love you. And so, you know, it could make sense, and it's probably the one that makes the most sense. But overall, I don't really see any of these Lantern Corps fitting Kung Lao that much. You know, like willpower makes sense, I guess. Hope, a little. But, you know, out of all of them, I think Avarice makes the most sense. So even though he's a good guy character, I think Kung Lao gets the Avarice ring.
Jax.
Alright, Jax. Now, in my last video, I talked about how Sonya didn't really have a clear Lantern Corps, and so I kind of just went with willpower because I thought it was just kind of the one that made the most sense. But then you guys in the comments were like, no, it's clearly willpower. And yeah, I see that now because you guys in the comments were all like, I mean, Sonya's able to go through all of this like crazy monsters and realms and all of that shenanigans and stuff just to protect the world. So obviously she's very brave, has a lot of willpower. And I guess that was just a massive oversight by me. But the even bigger oversight was the fact that her ending in Mortal Kombat vs. DC Universe literally confirms that she would be a Green Lantern. So, yeah. Don't know how I missed that. But I think the same thing applies to Jax. The fact that he's just a regular person and he goes through all of this Mortal Kombat stuff basically just to protect the world. I mean, in Mortal Kombat 2, it's to retrieve Sonya because she's captured and all that stuff. But in the grand scheme of things, it's to protect the world, and I think it makes sense for Jax. Even before he gets the metal arms, he's able to do all this stuff, so it just makes sense for him. But especially if you're going to go with NRS Jax, I think there's a Lantern Core that fits him a little bit better. And that is the Ultraviolet Lantern Core of... I forgot there's no tagline for it. The Ultraviolet Lantern Core. I think this one makes the most sense for Jax because of the trauma that he's been through, and especially in Mortal Kombat X, and especially Mortal Kombat 11, where he full-on turns evil because he doesn't want Jackie to go through the same stuff that he went through in the military, so he tries to reset the timeline so that Jackie doesn't go into the military and all that stuff. But it definitely shows that Jax had a lot of trauma within the military, within the Mortal Kombat stuff, the Special Forces, and so I think it makes sense for him to go with this Lantern Core because there's a lot of repressed emotions that he had that clearly didn't come out until he became evil in Mortal Kombat 11, but then obviously came back to the good side. It's not really explicitly stated because, I don't know, these games don't really go into that much detail about this sort of stuff, but I think it's safe to assume Jax has PTSD. I mean, just the fact that his arms were torn off by either a telekinetic ninja person, a freeze ninja person, or a gigantic man with 4 arms. One of those tears off his arms and he has to get used to new metal ones. Yeah, that alone is going to cause a lot of trauma. And then there's also his full history with the military, watching people die, almost dying himself, having to kill people. Yeah, I think it's pretty safe to say that Jax deserves the Ultraviolet Lantern Core. And the fact that he's able to be so well adjusted, I guess, like, yes, he does turn evil and stuff and tries to, like, reset the timeline, but, like, just in his mannerisms and stuff, like, the fact that he's so well adjusted means he definitely has a lot of repressed emotions that he's doing a very good job at repressing. So, Jax, Ultraviolet Lantern Core.
Baraka.
Alright, now we got Baraka, and I think this one is kind of a dud, honestly. There's not really much to talk about here. Baraka basically has no motivations or personality, really. Like, if we had that Pride lantern ring that I talked about earlier, and I think I even talked about it in the last video with Goro, if we had that one, maybe that one could work for Baraka and it would be a bit more clear. But as it stands, I guess Fear, maybe Rage could work, but I think it's pretty clear that Fear would be the one for Baraka. I mean, like, kind of the whole point of why his character was created was because of fear. They wanted a character that would scare people, so they got a Nosferatu mask and plastered, like, long nails onto its face so that those could be teeth. And so, yeah, and now you got Baraka. Yeah, he's supposed to be scary and stuff. And the giant blades, yeah, those are pretty scary as well. Fear for Baraka. Yep, that's what we're going with. Let's move on here.
Smoke.
Alright, now we have Smoke, and this is the first character in either video where I'm kind of just completely stumped on which one belongs to him. I mean, you know, other characters I've had an idea or like a range of ideas where, okay, it can be one of these rings. I legitimately have no idea which one Smoke would go into, because Smoke just doesn't really have that much of a personality, if we're being honest. None of his games that he's appeared in have really shown anything from him. Not even the most recent game, not Mortal Kombat 9, not any of the games before that. It's just, he's just kind of there. That's basically Smoke's character. He's there. And so I really can't decide a Lantern Core for him that really suits him. If I had to choose one, like I had to, I guess the one that you can make an argument for is Willpower, because of his time with the Lin Kuei and the fact that he has to have a lot of courage to go against the Lin Kuei when they're doing the Cyber Initiative and try to run away from them alongside Kuai Liang. So, you know, I think Smoke being a part of the Willpower Lantern Core could make sense, but, you know, there's none of them that he really fits, just because he basically has no personality, no motivation, or anything. He's literally just a Mortal Kombat character that's there. The most popular just there character in the Mortal Kombat franchise. He's literally just there. Count how many times I say just there, and that one that I just did, that counts. Also, while we're on the topic of the Lin Kuei, I almost forgot, Kuai Liang is a different character from Bihan, so we should talk about him in this video because Mortal Kombat 2 was his first appearance. And Kuai Liang, I think he's a character where I think willpower also makes a lot of sense for him. I think also just some of the more positive emotions, hope, compassion, make a lot of sense for him. And I think actually, now that I'm really thinking about it, I think compassion actually is the one to go with here because of the fact that he's different from the rest of the Lin Kuei. Even Smoke, he has a sort of compassion and an inherent good inside his heart that just none of the other Lin Kuei have really shown to have, besides maybe like Sarax or something, but even him, like, just doesn't show that natural, like, goodness within him that Kuai Liang shows. And although, yes, he's had a few stumbling blocks with his revenge against Scorpion and all that stuff in certain adaptations, overall, he's been shown to be a very, very good person and a very well-meaning person. And as soon as he takes over the Lin Kuei, he wants to make it this protector for Earthrealm. And I think that really shows his character and what he wants. Even in Mortal Kombat 1, where he's not Sub-Zero anymore and he's Scorpion, he still wants to do the same thing, and he ends up raising Hanzo Sashi and creating the Shirai Ryu, and it gets kind of weird, but, you know, I think compassion definitely makes the most sense for Scorpion, or Sub-Zero, whatever, Kuai Liang, in Mortal Kombat, because he's always just shown a almost unnatural abundance of compassion and goodness within him, considering his circumstances, being raised as a cold, heartless assassin within the Lin Kuei. I don't know how he does it. It's just how he is. And, you know, that's like real life as well. There are just some people who, no matter the circumstances, will just be a good person. Just like there's people who, no matter the circumstances, will just be a bad person. That's the way life goes.
Noob Saito.
Alright, now we have the second secret character we're going to be talking about in today's video from Mortal Kombat 2, Noob Saibot. Need I say more? Yeah, this is the clearest Lantern Corps we've had in any of these videos out of any of the characters so far. This one is so overwhelmingly obvious that, like, choosing any other one would just be like misinformation, just plain wrong, and you'd be throwing out lies into the universe. Like, I don't know, fear, perhaps a little bit, but nah, none of the other ones make even a sliver of sense compared to the Death Lantern Corps when you have the Death Lantern Corps, because Noob Saibot, not only is he just dead, but he's also obsessed with death and killing people, and, you know, raising an army of the dead, mind controlling these people. Basically, he's Mortal Kombat's version of, I think his name is Black Hand or something like that, from the DC universe, who is like the leader of the Black Lantern Corps, and he's basically just the Mortal Kombat version of that character. His aspirations, we've seen in, I think, multiple endings, that he wants to basically just raise an army of all the dead Mortal Kombat characters, who he would ideally kill all the Mortal Kombat characters and then raise them as his own, like, minions, and that's what we saw in the Mortal Kombat 11 ending. And yeah, it's just very clear. He is literally Mortal Kombat's, like, Grim Reaper type character. He is all about death. He can't, like, raise people from the dead. He can't, like, just raise, like, random bodies from the ground or anything like that. But he does have a lot of abilities and a lot of motivation centered around death because of the way Quan Chi twisted his mind. And Quan Chi is probably another character that gets the Death Lantern Corps because specifically of his ability to raise the dead. And so, you know, obviously he's the one that raised Noob Saibot from death when he was Bihan. And yeah, it's just, he completely twisted Bihan's mind into being just this death-centered, emotionless, cold being of just death. That's the only word you can really say. It's just death. And so this one obviously is the one for Mr. Noob Saibot, aka Bihan, but not the real Bihan, because the real Bihan isn't this. All right. Some people say that, but he's not this.
Jade.
All right, now we got Jade, the third secret character from Mortal Kombat 2. I think this is another one that's a little bit difficult. I think I alluded to her a little bit earlier in the Katana and Mileena sections. And yeah, Jade is another character whose personality hasn't really just been able to shine and be consistent throughout the entire series. I think, obviously, I said earlier, love could make sense for her because it's something that she has shown to use. And also her relationship with Khan could make her qualify for the Love Lantern Corps. But I don't really think it's like super fitting. Like, I would say it's more fitting than Katana or anything like that. But I think there's probably other Lantern Corps that Jade would suit a lot more, like Hope. I think this one can make sense, basically for the same reasons as you would consider Katana for Hope. The fact that she's able to switch sides shows that she has hope in Earthrealm, even though they are pretty much always at a extreme disadvantage in comparison to Outworld. And so the fact that she always believes in Earthrealm, and specifically in Katana, she always believes in Katana, and that's kind of why she goes over to Earthrealm, because Katana believes in Earthrealm, and Jade believes in Katana, so it's just a natural progression of events. Katana goes to Earthrealm, Jade goes to Earthrealm. Hooray, we're all happy, and Earth doesn't merge with Outworld and become awful. And so, thinking about it, I think Hope just makes the most sense for Jade because of just that belief that she has in Katana. It's kind of like Liu Kang with Kung Lao. Even though I didn't really mention this in my last video, another reason why Liu Kang fits the Hope Lantern Corps so well is because of his hope within specific people, specifically Kung Lao. And also another character that's like this is Raiden. Raiden has a lot of hope in Liu Kang. Liu Kang has a lot of hope in Kung Lao. If you're able to show you're able to have a lot of hope for one specific person and inspire hope in that person, then I think that really qualifies you for the Hope Lantern Corps. And, you know, being a symbol of hope for many different people, that's obviously probably the bigger qualifier. But the fact that Jade is able to do this for Katana and do it so well that Katana is able to do all the stuff that she does, I don't think she could be as great a hero for Earthrealm without Jade's help. I think this one makes the most sense for Jade. So Jade in the Hope Lantern Corps. But, you know, I can definitely see an argument for love. You know, her love for Katana is also the reason why she has so much hope for her. Compassion is another one that I think could make sense. But I think hope is a little bit more overwhelming for her character.
Kintaro.
Alright, now we got Kintaro. Now, again, Kintaro doesn't really have much of a personality whatsoever, so the only way that I would be able to kind of decide a Lantern Corps is just based off of, like, context and, like, I don't know, just, like, the facts that are there about his character and what we can presume from those facts. And I think he makes sense for all of the Lantern Corps that Goro made sense for, so Fear and Rage, I guess, could make sense. I think he fits Rage a little bit more than Goro did. I think I said Fear for Goro. That's what I think I said. I want to say that's what I said. But I think Kintaro, he's a little less like fear-inducing and more so just rage-fueled. And you can really tell in his gameplay and stuff and the way he fights compared to Goro that, you know, there's a bit more rage inside that heart. But considering the fact that, you know, Kintaro has always kind of played second fiddle, similar to Kung Lao with Liu Kang. Kintaro has always been second fiddle to Goro. I think this is another situation where Avarice might make the most sense because, you know, this is purely based off of, you know, what we know about the two characters of Goro and Kintaro, but Kintaro will probably have a lot of jealousy for Goro because of his status within the Shao Kahn race, and so I think Kintaro would make sense for Avarice because he wants to steal everything that Goro had, and he wants to become what Goro was, but obviously, he ain't Goro. He ain't that cool. So, yeah. Avarice for Kintaro, but I'm really picking Avarice so this is more interesting, honestly. If I was being like for real, it would probably be like Fear or something, or Rage or whatever, because Kintaro really has no character other than just big, angry monster, and, you know, Rage, Fear, those make sense for those qualifications. So, yeah, I'll go with Avarice just so that you guys aren't bored of me talking about just baseline character details.
Shao Kahn.
Alright, and now we got a big one. The big man. The Emperor of Outworld. Shao Kahn. Now, I think this is the character with the most different Lantern Corps that he could be a part of. Firstly, death. Now, Shao Kahn has died in the past. I think he's died multiple times, actually. And so that does qualify him sort of for Death Lantern Corps. I don't know if you have to be dead or you have had to have just died before or whatever. But, you know, he has died in the past, so I'm just going to say it could make sense. But he's also really obsessed with death. He wants to merge the realms so that he can take over everything. And he kills a lot of people to get to that point. But I don't know if that's, like, too good of an argument for why he deserves the Death Lantern Corps. You know, he does kill a lot of people. But I think that's more of a Thanos thing where, you know, Thanos kills people because it's necessary to get what he wants. And I think Shao Kahn is kind of similar. He doesn't just, like, kill for the fun of it. I mean, I'm sure he does, but we've never really seen that. So I don't think the Death Lantern Corps is for Shao Kahn. Another one that could make sense is fear. I think he inspires, or I don't think, he does inspire a lot of fear in a lot of people, not only from his realm in Outworld, and everyone's scared of him, no one wants to usurp him or whatever, but also in Earthrealm. In all of the realms, he's seen as this big, scary figure. He is a god. He is someone that is known across the realms as the Emperor of Outworld, and it seems like he's kind of known as the biggest, toughest guy in all of the realms. In the whole universe, everyone throughout all the realms sees him as kind of the biggest, toughest guy, and if he wanted to, could probably destroy everyone in a fight if it was one-on-one within every single person throughout all of the realms. And so I think that it makes sense for fear to be one of the choices here, but I feel like, you know, it's not really something he embraces that much. Like, obviously he likes being feared, but I don't think he really embraces it the way that you would want him to if you wanted him to be a part of the Fear Lantern Corps. I'm not saying he couldn't be a part of this this Lantern Corps, but I feel like there's other ones that he embraces a bit more. Now, some people might say Rage. I don't really think that's a fitting one for Shao Kahn because, you know, obviously he's shown to be, you know, he gets angry, but that's just because he's a villain, and villains get angry a lot. And, you know, he's this big, strong, tough guy, so people assume that he's, like, angry all the time. But I don't think it's really something that's, like, an overwhelming emotion within Shao Kahn, enough for him to be a part of that Lantern Corps, especially since it's all about revenge, and there's not really anyone that Shao Kahn, at least in, like, the original timeline, and when he starts out in the most iconic version of the character, there's nothing for Shao Kahn to really want because of revenge. Like, there's no one he really hates that much. Like, he doesn't like Raiden, but, like, he doesn't want revenge on him or anything. Like, Raiden didn't do anything. He just doesn't like him because he's the opposing side. So Rage, I don't think makes sense for Shao Kahn. And I think this only leaves two Lantern Corps that really fit Shao Kahn, and you might be shocked by the first one if you don't know how the Lantern Corps works, but Compassion could make sense for Shao Kahn because not only do you qualify for this Lantern Corps if you have a lot of compassion, but also if you have zero compassion at all, and it will give you compassion. And I think Shao Kahn is definitely a character with absolutely no compassion at all. He literally kind of only exists to get what he wants, or not really what he wants, but what the One Being wants, because Shao Kahn was not created by the One Being, but he was created and influenced by the One Being as sort of a vessel for all of the realms to merge, which is why he wants all of the realms to merge into one, because that'll restore the One Being. But Shao Kahn doesn't really know that, I guess. He just does it because he's naturally influenced by it. So I think compassion can make sense for him because he was created as a being with zero passion, because he just needs this sole purpose of merging the realms together. But I think when you think about it, wanting everything to be one, wanting everything to be one under your rule, wanting just everything, wanting to rule everything, I think there's a Lantern Corps that makes a bit more sense for wanting everything. And I think its oath kind of shows how much it fits Shao Kahn. What's mine is mine, and mine, and mine, and mine, and mine, and mine, not yours. So wanting everything to be yours and everything to be one within your rule, I think makes it pretty clear that Shao Kahn's Lantern Corps is the Avarice Lantern Corps of Avarice. I meant to say the orange lantern core of avarice, but I said the avarice lantern core. It's avarice, okay? I think Shao Kahn shows a lot of greed, and I think it's the one that makes the most sense because his whole motivation, his whole goal is to merge the realms together. And while yes, it is technically because he's influenced by the one being, but the in-universe, the psychological stuff Shao Kahn has going on, the reason he wants it is just because of pure greed. And the reason he has that greed is because of the one being, but at the end of the day, it's still greed. And so I think Shao Kahn goes into the orange lantern core, which, some people might disagree with. I could definitely see an argument for fear or compassion, but for me personally, when I think of Shao Kahn, I think of someone whose main characteristic is that he's very, very greedy. And that's all of the Mortal Kombat 2 characters. You guys make sure to let me know in the comments which picks you agree with, which ones you disagree with, and also let me know if you want to see part 3 where I cover the Mortal Kombat 3 characters. And yeah, make sure to check out the links in the description to my merch store and my Mortal Kombat Retold podcast, also my Twitter and my Instagram. Also, give this video a like so more people get to see it within YouTube's algorithm, and subscribe, turn on the notification bell. And with that being said, that's it for this video, my fellow Water Piece. I'll see you next time.